Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Post Political Podcast. My name is Derek Britton. I'm your host. And tonight we have a pretty awesome show. I'm really excited about it. We get to talk to my friend Adam Carbone about his election, his campaign in Cranston, Rhode Island. And I'm really excited. First off, let's bring in the sponsors. We have a new affiliate. We are now an affiliate of Brewed Coffee. I'm going to drop a link into the comments. And if you go there and purchase some either some t-shirts, some coffee, or some coffee mugs, it'll help out the Post Political Podcast. And also, as always, we are also brought to you by Vermin Supreme Institute. We do a lot of great things for the community with mutual aid. We do education to the greater group of people, and we also do a political arm. And Adam Carbone is actually going to talk a little bit about the Disrupt the Vote group that we put together to kind of do this stuff with third parties. So let's bring in Adam and get going. How's it going, man?
On, Derek?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's we got a little bit of snow up here in the Northeast, as you know. So it was our early start to doing a bunch of shoveling and snow blowing and stuff. But no, it's been overall a pretty good day. So
yeah, that was my whole day today, is just shoveling.
Yeah.
I'm still like halfway through. Like after this, I'm going to do more shoveling.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always tell people, I love the snow. I don't like dealing with the snow. Like I love looking at it. I love, I used to do a ton of snowboarding and a bunch of stuff like that, but it is kind of a pain kind of dealing with it in your driveway and all that stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
I blame it on Obama. So.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit.
Joke. You didn't call me out on it. That's a dated joke.
It's all right. I still use the Obama joke here and there every once in a while still. So
yeah, you don't have to fake loud. You can just say it. And I should be held responsible. So
no worries. So I'd love to jump in and talk to you a little bit about the mayor race that you ran just this past year and how that went for you and some of the messaging you used and just a general overview about how it went.
Yeah. So I guess it all started in 2018. Our mayor, Alan Fung, was running for governor. And if he won, there would be a special election for mayor. And that's kind of where I saw a spot for me, because I'm like, nobody's really talking about this or thinking about this. I know like the president of the city council who did run in this election, Michael Farina, cool guy. He was kind of the guy, but I'm like, there's no really like Democrat. There's no third party. I said, there's a spot for me because unopposed. I mean, there's a spot. So that's why I came up with the whole plan. And then, he didn't win governor. He got pretty close, but he didn't win. And, so I kind of shelved it for a couple of years. Then in 2020, now he's term limited. And there's a spot. So Michael Farina, the Republican, he announced, and I'm like, there's no Democrats. So I was going to announce, I knew this for years, I was going to do it, but nobody else announced, but he did it so early. He did it like January, February. I'm like, that's pretty early. And it was earlier than everybody else. But I said, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to announce right as well. So there's a Democrat there. So we were there, the only ones for like 4 months. And then eventually people piled in, and there was another Republican, and then there was 2 more Democrats. So it was 5 of us. And at the time, like I despise the Democratic Party, but I'm like, as far as what I'm doing, I thought, because our city is very Republican, I'm like, I figure my shtick, because I did it very comedically, and I figure that my shtick best, I think I could relate to more people maybe in the Democratic Party, and I had like an advisor that pretty much told me to do Democrat. So that's what I did. And then, and I've always been a fan of Vermin Supreme, and then eventually I started getting in touch with him, and then I learned about the Libertarian Party. I'm like, oh man, I wish I did it as a Libertarian. But the thing is, I kind of ran, kind of like what Bernie Sanders is. He's a socialist, but he ran as a Democrat. So I ran as a Democrat. Then I learned, and I kind of got indoctrinated into the Libertarian Party, mid-election. So I was like, wow, I wish, I ran this way. But it's like, even in the debate stage, I announced it. I'm like, this is what I am. I'm just running as a Democrat. So it was definitely a learning process of what, I could have done, I should have done, but I'm still glad that I did it, and I did it the way I did it, which was comedically. And I ran as a Democrat, but Libertarian at heart. It's just not.
So real quick on that, I mean, I've seen a lot of Liberty Republicans run. You have people say like Thomas Massey and folks like that run in the Republican Party as Liberty Republicans, but you don't see a ton of libertarian leaning Democrats announcing that they're libertarian. And I know there's some stigma associated with it as well, but I see a lot of people on the left or Democrat, registered Democrats that do as much for, or sometimes more, in my opinion, for the social justice or the civil rights side of things that the Liberty Republicans do for the deregulation or, the cutting of some of the government oversight of things. So I love that you ran as kind of a Liberty Democrat. I think there needs to be more of where the ballot access issues are, like you had. I think it makes sense to have to kind of buck the system in some ways. And if you have to do it that way, I'd love to see more folks kind of doing that to make it more accessible feeling to folks that are registered in the Democrat or Republican Party, I think.
Right. Well, and the killer too is that you can't even register as a libertarian here. That's not because it doesn't have enough. You got to 5% or something, but it didn't have enough to even register as that. So it's like you got to pick one, or you go independent, which of course is possible. But like at the beginning, I was trying to make my own party called the Bagel and Cream Cheese Party, which is like inclusive with everybody. It's just like whatever you believe. If you believe this little bit or this little bit or this little bit, you put it all together and you got bagel cream cheese. But in order to make that party, it was a lot of signatures. It was at least 20,000. And it was like, it was an impossibility with the time frame and everything that they threw at me. I'm like, okay. But they said, if you get elected, you can make your party. So that's kind of what my idea was going into it. Then, then I figured out about the Libertarian. I'm like, this is an established party. There's people in Rhode Island that, there's a head of the Libertarian Party. There's people here. There's a base. So that's perfect. But by that time, it was kind of a little, not too late, but you can at least bring attention to the party. And the cool thing is, I got a lot of people that never registered to vote, people in their 30s, never registered to vote before, and they registered just to vote for me. And I think that right there is an accomplishment. It's like at least 200 people registered to vote for me. And I'm like, that's cool. That's cool because now they will pay attention to elections in the future, and it's bringing attention to this party. So I think that overall is the most important thing. But, it was a big learning process, all new to me, but I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge win. I mean, one of the things that I've talked about with a bunch of basically all three of the guests that I've had on so far has been that the biggest issue right now with the Democrat and Republican Party is there's a huge chunk of people in America that feel completely misrepresented, that there's no one in politics that represents them, so they don't even get motivated to vote. They stay home. If you look at this election was a little different. There was a kind of big voter turnout numbers, but it still would have been the case that if you look at do not vote as a vote, if you take the entire population of the United States, do not vote wins every single presidential election. Yeah,
exactly. And I think too, like, I wish like doing it comedically got new people out, which is great. And I think it's finding the balance. I talked to Spike Cohen about this a little bit on his show during the election, that there's a line of like comedy and seriousness, which is like that was like kind of my challenge was, what do I do here? Because especially 2020 happened. I had this since 2018, and I was always going to do it like goofy. That was my plan. But also, if you ask serious questions, I will answer them seriously. But there's also the crazy side of it, which a lot of people like more than I thought. A lot of people. Even like the mayor-elect was like, this is really cool. All of my competitors were like, this is cool. This is fun. So that in a sense was interesting, but there's also a line, because obviously if you look at the numbers of how the vote turned out, I had like 4%, 4.1%, and then the mail-in ballots, and that changed everything too. But it was like, it's still a decent amount for a first run, but it's like, that obviously could have been different if I did it differently. But the thing is, I wouldn't be genuine to myself if I was just running as a serious politician with a suit and tie, as we were saying before. I can't do that. I can definitely make it more serious, but that I'm not going to be fake. I'm always going to be myself. And this goofball, this is me. That's what I'm going to do. So, yeah.
And that's wonderful. I think, and we talked about it a little bit in the pre-production kind of talk, but just to bring everyone into this in the audience, we talked a little bit about, how audacious messaging, and Adam's going to go into this in a little bit here, how being your true self is going to be the best way to run. And I think, I love Vermin Supreme. Adam loves, we're both big fans of Vermin Supreme. He does things very, very differently than everyone else. And there's a lot of people in the Libertarian Party and outside as well that will immediately tune him out because he does things that way. But there is a large percentage of people that he brings in that would never pay attention to politics otherwise. And Adam did the exact same thing. And I still believe that especially the message of the Libertarian Party, but I think just in general, third parties, because of the lack of media coverage, because of the lack of attention that we get, and intentionally, being boxed out of a lot of media and conversations, I think it takes all types of people. And as long as you are being your genuine self, that's what matters. And like you said, you were there being your genuine self, and that's what mattered. And I think that people notice that and want to be a part of that, and that's why they want to vote for someone like that. So I'd love for you to go into like what you did and kind of what the how the messaging was a little different, and what you did during the debates and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I started off with, like, I knew it was going to get serious at some point, but I started off just like by saying, just absolutely, politicians make false promises all day long, constantly. So I'm like, let's just say things that obviously can't happen. But the thing is, I actually did try to make these things happen. But like, for example, there's a little gazebo. It's like a little thing. It's the worst venue possible, but it's a big Cranston thing. It's a tradition over here. I actually love the place, but it's like this little thing. So I'm saying I'm going to bring Adele, which is a worldwide superstar. I'm going to bring her to the gazebo if I win. So she's going to perform at my inauguration. So that was like I'm going to bring Adele to the gazebo. Then, I did a lot of things, like I'm going to ban pasta salad from the city. And the thing is, like, I personally, I'm an Italian. We love a pasta salad. I don't. And I said, I'm going to ban it from the whole city. And I'm going to have drones surveilling the city, all things that people don't like, being spied on and surveillance, like just things to like get on people's nerves, but also make people laugh. A lot of people loved it. I did get a lot of like hate for it, but it came with the territory. I knew what I was doing. Yeah. But I did like just the most hilarious options possible. The half off app hours at Applebee's, I was going to extend the hours, which actually they just did, which is very funny. But I took credit for it.
Absolutely.
It had nothing to do with me. But I have been emailing management and stuff. But who knows if it had to do with me? But just stuff like that, extending the half off app hours at Applebee's, the Adele thing. I just kept adding on as I thought of something. I just kept adding it on to my platform.
Yep.
There's all things I couldn't. I said I was going to bring Lil Peep back from the dead. So many things. I'm like, if I get enough votes, he's coming back. And it was just anything I thought of, which to me, because I have a very comedic kind of mind, and I'm like, it's an outlet for comedy as well, but it's also it's in 2020, as crazy as this year was, it made a lot of people laugh, and people enjoyed it. Like, I got some hate. I got a lot of, like, it was like heavy hate, or it was absolute love, and just that love alone was enough to make it worth it. Like, for example, there was this father and his son that kept driving by my signs. It's like me pointing like this, saying, have fun, get stuff done, vote Carbone. He drove by, and the son's like, who's that? And they look me up, and this kid's like 6 years old. They look me up, and they watched all my videos, like, oh my God. They had so much fun with it. And they're like, this made our year. He was so sad. He was in his house. Just that little story alone, I'm like, that's beautiful. That makes this whole thing worth it. And there's many, many people like that. And actually, even the haters, I had fun with that too. I just doubled down harder. Like, the biggest problem I encountered was I took out my staff to Olive Garden. We were out all day campaigning. I'm an Italian. I know it's not authentic Italian. I know this, but I said, I took my staff out to authentic Italian food, and they're really enjoying it. Thank you, Italy. I said something like that. Oh my God, it was hundreds and hundreds of just hate. No, it isn't. It's not genuine Italian. Oh my God, it led into this big. It was fight. And then my people started fighting their people. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, guys, why should I have to clarify that it's a joke that I called Olive Garden authentic Italian? But that to me was funny, but it also got like very crazy at some point.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, it was all fun to me. But I was also still trying to win. I'm like, not just making a joke. I want to win.
Yep.
But I have to do it this way,
And I think a big piece of it too is you're establishing your voice. You're establishing yourself as a political figure. And I think one of the things that we see a lot, especially in the Libertarian Party, but also in many third party, I've seen, third party races across Massachusetts and other places as well, of one and done candidates, of people who do one election, they don't hit the numbers they'd like to see, and then they drop out and you never see them again. And I get it. It's got to be I've never personally run for office. I've helped others do some work for it, but I've never personally run, and it has to be draining. I got to imagine it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But would be wonderful if you could build on something. You know what I mean? Like you're able to take this mayor run. People are used to your comedic voice. You can either be a little push it a little further, keep doing the same type of stuff, or maybe pull back a little bit, but still work in a lot of that comedy. You really have a lot of places you can go now with this, because you have established that voice, and you're now kind of a comedic politician in the area.
There's definitely, there's a name established now, and there's a sense of recognition. Like if I go out like this, I get recognized, which is good. But which is good, because I can use that for future things. And the thing, like, I'm not going away for sure. It's just reworking. Okay, this is what I got here, and I hoped for the best, but I also expected the worst. Like I wasn't like shocked that what I got. I'm like, yeah, this is par for the course. I understand this. And, I wasn't mad about it. I congratulated the victors and stuff. And it was all kind of everything that happened. I expected for every single win and every loss. It was all very expected. So here it's just reworking. Okay, this is what I got here. I think ultimately I ended up with like 254 votes, which ended up averaging like 3 point something% after the mail-in votes. I got like 80 something mail-in votes, but that kind of, so I'm like, okay, 254, it's okay, but how do I, now tweak that to get a larger number for a different kind of race? So there's an established name and look and thing. So I plan on using that in the future.
That's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of these other politicians are kind of going to go away, because a lot of them were term limited and stuff, but in the council, and though they were all great people, but I think they're kind of done politically. Like some of them said it publicly. Yeah, this is it. And I'm like, no, not for me. I was just testing the waters, really. Hoping I do better, but still testing the waters. So now I know, okay, next time this is what I got to do. It also comes down to money too. Not that it's all about money. If you look at this public record, the money that I spent was like a fraction. It was a drop in the bucket. If I had the money that they had, and a lot of it was their personal money, if I had that, oh my God, like it would be like everything I did was nuts. I did billboards, I did mailers, and they were crazy, but I only could do so much because I didn't have that much. It was all, I did get donations, but nowhere near anything that they got. Like we're talking like 1% of their, like they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if I had that sort of, oh my God, it'd be a win, I think, with what I do. And I don't have to change anything. It's like, obviously a lot of voters would be like, no, but if I could reach, I didn't even reach everybody. I think I reached like 5,000 people, maybe. There's 80,000. So if I reached all those people, those numbers would have translated, but that equates to money,
Yeah. And I think that's a big point. I think one of the big things that we have to get better at as third party, and I don't think we're going to get to where, unless we completely sell out our values and really push for massive PACs to kind of fund us. I think we need to do a better job making our message relatable to small businesses, to we can do the fundraising that we're doing now with online donations and things like that. That's great, and that does get us to a certain level, but I think we have a really great message that would resonate well and really is built for small businesses. And if we can get even a fraction of what the large businesses are putting into the Dems and the Republicans, if we can get a small amount of that, but with a larger net of more small businesses and stuff, and not do it on empty promises. I mean, I think we're the best party to help small businesses flourish, and especially after COVID and the lockdowns, I think they're going to need that. And I think it's an opportunity for all third parties, and especially the Libertarian Party, to really go after and try to help those folks, and see if we could, solicit donations to make it a little bit more of a fair race against the major two parties.
Yeah, and now too, like I think it's a perfect opportunity for them to get in there, because it's like people are fed up. Like like Democrats, specific, like our state is run by a Democrat. It is such hypocrisy, it's crippling. It's absolutely crippling to these small businesses. You know, a lot of these business owners, they are fed up. They're losing business, and just alone by the restrictions of how many people they can have in there. Let's say it's 30%, they're down to 30% capacity, or they're down to 50%, whatever it is. That's about the average. But just people are scared. So even if they could have 100%, you're still going to have about 50%. So you're taking 50% of 50%, or a third of the 30%, and that's what you're getting. And and all these businesses are closing everywhere. How could you not be fed up? How are there not riots? I mean, there's like protests and stuff, but where are you getting with that?
Right.
You need a new elected official. You need somebody to say, hey, enough is enough. This is just straight up tyranny. And I think it is the libertarians' time to shine, because it is. We want them to go away and mind their own business. I think it should be up to everybody right now what they want to do. You know the risks. You know everything. There's the vaccine now coming out. Do what you want to do. Go out or don't go out, and that's it. Or get the vaccine or don't get the vaccine. And you don't have. And that shouldn't be mandatory. I don't think it's gonna be, but it shouldn't be anyway. But get it, don't get it. Go out, don't go out. That's up to you. And then leave everybody alone. That's the test of the waters. Now it's over. Their time of power is over, or it will be. You know.
Yeah. And coming from someone, I'm taking the COVID very seriously. I have a newborn at home. We're staying home and staying kind of isolated, I guess, from a lot of folks on the outside. We're trying to do everything we can to make sure our baby girl is staying healthy. And I still believe that, if we have Lowe's and Walmart and Amazon, Amazon's online, but if you have these big stores that are able to stay open, and you're restricting all these small businesses, how is that any safer to go to a big box store where there's going to be 400 people and 30 people in line versus going to a small store and having, a couple people? I mean, like I said, I'm not a denier of anything that I think there's an assumed risk that everyone needs to identify. You have a risk of going into a car and getting into a car accident. We assume that risk every day when we drive. There's a risk associated with COVID. I'm not willing to take that risk because I need to keep my little girl healthy. But there are other people that are willing to take that. And I understand it's a pandemic. You want to slow the spread. I understand the science and the math behind it. But I do think, And I want to see if there is some sort of ruling that this type of thing is okay to do, that it be applied across the board and not just the big box companies being able to stay open and all these little mom and pop stores going out of business, and we're losing all of that money back in the community. It's not just I hate big business. Those big businesses are not reinvesting in the community the same way that my hardware store down the street is. They're employing people in my town. They're spending that money back in my town. You don't see that with Walmart's not coming in and spending all that money back in your town. So it's crippling to not only those businesses. And if you're not part of those small businesses, you need to realize that it's still crippling to your community, because you're losing that source of revenue and even just tax revenue into your community.
Yeah. Actually, a good example of that was today. There's like this guy that he must have been here. This guy, Vladimir from Russia. He's been here for like 60 years. He's down the street, and he has a watch repair place. And I had two broken. I break my watches constantly. That's why I usually have like this is like a little thing. I just broke like two different watches, and I went over there to bring him. Like, oh, let's give this guy some business. Usually, like, you can buy a new watch like at Walmart, like a $10 watch, as long as whatever. And I went over there. It's closed. I think it seems like it was closed for good. I'm like, this guy's been there I've been going to him for 10 years fixing my watches. It's like something like, I don't need to go do that, but it's like, I want to give this guy business. He's a cool guy. He's been there for so long. There's such a story there. Closed. It looked closed permanently. I looked in the windows, all empty. I'm like, that was like and then today I went to Walmart and got a new watch because he was closed. But I went to him first, and I'm like, Walmart, there's tons of people. It's a zoo in there. Even the mall, the Warwick Mall, it's a zoo. It's an absolute zoo. And then in the food court, everybody has their mask off because they're eating. There's like 100 people in the middle of the food court. It's an absolute zoo, and that's okay. And then all these little things about Vladimir gets shut down. He can't afford it anymore. He was barely hanging in anyway, and now that's it. Like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so frustrating. And I think the leadership has to step up. I mean, they're not going to. I don't think at this point they're not going to. They're hanging on to the last year or two of power, and then they're on their way out, and they're going to try to replace themselves with another Democrat. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't want that. I mean, there are probably some people that do, but they're delusional, right? They don't.
They have a good messaging machine. They have a lot of money, and they have a lot of, they have a very good PR machine that makes people feel like whatever they're doing is doing the right thing, whether it be for civil rights or and in reality, when you look at actual results from some of the legislation that gets passed, it's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of, occupational licensing seems so benign. It seems like it's something that, we should have standards for how different people who work at different professions. But when you look at some of them and you realize that someone that does salon work has some number of hours that need to be done and all this stuff done by not the company that's hiring them, but by the federal or the state and local government sometimes. That is a barrier of entry that becomes financial. So people who are in lower income, brackets can't afford the schooling or the time where they're not getting paid doing apprentice work and stuff. You immediately cut out a large part of the population that could be doing this work and could be, furthering a career or a passion they have. And instead, it is immediately cut off at the beginning and not allowed to do what they love because there's a law in place that says they need to spend $10,000 on a class and 20 hours a week for 4 weeks or whatever the regulation ends up being in your local municipality. Those types of things, I think people don't recognize today that those are major issues, but they get put in place to separate the classes. I mean, it really does push people who can't afford that into a group that never can get out of that churn of working jobs that they're not excited about going to, or I think if we can show that there are third parties out here trying, and I think there are more than just, I think the Libertarian Party has a really good message there in trying to push that. But if you look, there's also the Green Party that does take some of those stances as well with us, and I'd love to work together with them to try and put legislation through even outside of being elected as an official, but doing like a ballot measure or something like that to try and help. I think we can get that messaging into them and really show that we can be a positive impact on small business.
Oh yeah, and a sad thing that happened too with the growth of a third party. I mean, Bernie Sanders, what happened there is a really sad. I think it's a sad story. Like I looked up to the dude, like just for his. I didn't agree with everything that he had to say, but I thought his movement was powerful, and he ended up being swallowed whole by the Democratic Party, and he took all these people, these free thinkers, and I think he stole a lot of libertarians as well, and he took them in there, and they're like, this guy's a good guy, and he has a good cause, and he just threw it into the ground and said, vote for Hillary Clinton or vote for Joe Biden, a good friend of mine, vote for Joe Biden. What? Are you kidding me? Vote for Joe Biden. Like he's already the middle finger to a lot of the people that voted for him. Black Lives Matter. I already did enough. I don't know if you heard the tape. I already did enough for you. What? It's like these people, gathered and marched and did their thing, and you're telling them you already got it. I already did enough for you, which you didn't. He's horrible. Right. He's horrible for the black community. It's horrible. And for Bernie Sanders to say, oh, my good friend Joe Biden, go vote for him, or him on Kimmel, or was it Jimmy Fallon, all the same. For him to be on and say, do you think Biden could win if he gets an nomination? Oh, yeah, I do think he could win. Whoa, there's the death of your campaign right there. And that was so sad to see. And then you wonder why people turn to somebody like Trump. They are fed up with this system. And we really need it. And people went to the next strongest person. It's like, okay, well, and then people went to Trump. And why? We got to stop looking at I mean, now that's going to end, I think, with Trump. We had to stop looking at Trump bad. Now what? Now we got to look at the system that made Trump, the system that put him there in the first place. And that's what we're now back to with Biden, supposedly, right? That's what we're back to. And how do people not see that? How do people not see what happened in 2016? Like, I mean, Gary Johnson was the best, but like Gary Johnson, he did a good job. We need a strong, like we need a Trump-like guy or like a Bernie-like guy. Somebody with somebody with power, somebody with, like that energizes people in the Libertarian Party. And I think we're getting very, very close to it. We have a lot of good people that are starting to come up in this party, and people that already ran, like Vermin Supreme, Spike Cohen. We need people like that really going to get eyes on this party. And I think we need to work with people like the progressives that got duped into joining the Democratic Party. We need to take them back and show them that they're getting screwed. They are. She ran a Medicare for all, and now she won't withhold her vote for Pelosi. She's going to vote, and a lot of Mark Pocan, a lot of the people that are in the Progressive Party, they're all not withholding their vote for Pelosi. They call her Mama Bear. AOC calls her Mama Bear. What are you doing? You're not doing anything you said you're going to do. So it's very, very disappointing. And we need to wake people up in progressive, even get them back, get them out of there, and say, "What? You're misled. You're my next door neighbor too." Like, sucked right into the Democratic Party. What are you doing? He's a progressive. He's a Bernie Sanders guy. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're not. These aren't the people that are going to help you. Biden is not going to save them. Everybody's like, now calm down. Biden's in. Wow, we're back to square one. We're back. Honestly, we needed another. Not that I voted for Trump or anything. We needed another 4 years of like, look at your what you're doing is not working. This is why we have Trump again. We're kind of complacent again. The left's going to go to sleep. Everybody's going to go to sleep. We don't need this. This is not good. Like, obviously, if the Libertarians won, that would be the best thing. But we need another 4 years of just this madness. Another 4 years would have been good, because then it woke up the Democratic Party and those progressives that got sucked into that. But
and I heard that from a few people, that. And I get the mentality. I mean, I had a really hard time with Trump. He was one of my least favorite politicians of all time. I didn't love his. I mean, I get it. I got why he was elected. I got how people were fed up with the Joe Bidens of the world. I got that people were looking for someone that was speaking their mind and more authentic. For better or for worse, he said what was on his mind when it was on his mind, whenever he wanted to. And I think, like you said, the complacency with people going back to Joe Biden. I mean, we're going to see still the endless wars that have been going on since 9/11. We're still going to see horrible immigration platform that it's a carryover from Obama that made me leave. That kicked me out of the Democratic Party. I voted for first term Obama. Second term Obama came around. And I said, I can't do it.
Yep. And he lost 3 million in his next time around. He lost 3 million votes. It's like, I don't trust. I was going back to with JFK and all that, like looking at what happened with LBJ and, JFK wanting to pull out of the Vietnam War and LBJ putting 3 million more troops back. And like right there alone, and even what happened with the turn on Elm Street over there off of Main Street, on his, when he owns, like, I don't trust the government for that. I mean, people should remember, like, I'm just now kind of learning a bit. I've always known about it, but I'm really learning. Like, the government can be very scary and tricky for the beginning. They've been killing our people, doing everything, and us into wars we don't need to be in from the beginning. So how do we trust them now with anything? At least establishment people. We can't. I mean, you think everything's a coincidence? I mean, people just are out here believing that everything is a coincidence. Gosh, that's just not true at all. And people need to really start waking up and look at the history. Just look at every single thing that's happened terrible to us, and look at the cause. And mostly it's the government. But and unless every single thing's a coincidence and everything just so happens, is no way. I mean, JFK specifically. Start from there. Don't trust anything from that. That shows you we need a third party. Since the Democrats and Republicans, it's a mess.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we lost you a little bit here and there. You cut out just a tiny bit in the middle there, but I think we got the sentiment that you had about how we lose trust in the government over time with some of the issues that have happened for sure. But so we're right up against the 30-minute mark, and I wanted to get kind of some of your final thoughts on how can we how can we be successful with third parties? How can we pull in voters from the Democrats and Republicans, and how can we get our messaging to a larger audience? And how do we get to, so, in your race, how do you get to that full, I think you said 60,000 people? How do we get there from where we're at today? And what some of the steps that we should take between now and then?
Yep. I think we need to show that we're willing to cross party lines and cross ideology lines, which not everybody's willing to do, but I think we as libertarians need to be able to do that. It's like we can work for progressives, we can work with Republicans, we can work with Democrats. That's very important, and we need to put that on the table. It's like we're not going to block because, oh, you're a Democrat, I'm not going to vote that way, or you're a Republican, whatever. We need to say, okay, we're working for the greater good here, and we're working for the people. Ultimately, we're working for the people. So that right there. Then we have to get behind a strong, it shouldn't be like this, but we kind of need to get behind a that people can really resonate with and have mass appeal. And then I think that involves having some kind of personality, some kind of, I think you need the shtick. And a lot of the politicians nowadays, they had the shtick. Even Barack Obama had the shtick. Yeah. He's like the first senator. There's never been an African-American elected before. I mean, he was a pretty face on war. He sold war. That's why the Pentagon and everybody pushed him. The establishment pushed him because this is good. This is progressive. This is good. People are like, yes, we need an American finally. And, speaker. You got to give, this. Oh, yeah. Same thing with Trump. It's a shtick. And to be a shtick, good cause behind the shtick, which we haven't had in the last two presidencies. There's no behind Obama. There's no good in Trump. And with our movement, I think we can are good people out there that can put on a show. And unfortunately, politics is a show. As Roger Stone says, it's a show business for ugly people. Not everybody, but that's what it is. It's show business. It's what, right. And it shouldn't be, but it is. It is. Like even Pelosi's tearing up Trump's speech. That's the political theater. Like people need to see past that. But we need to put a show and policies behind it. And unfortunately, money corrupts the people that do that. Money will corrupt. If we can get a movement that's not by these big donors and a movement that's fun people, almost like Bernie was, but then he bent the knee too soon. If we had a movement like that with the libertarians, that would be golden. Our time is coming. I really do. Yeah. And I think we learn from our past mistakes, and we realize who we have to get behind and how. It's coming. And expect after 4 years of Biden, once people see it's what happens, but it's what happens, we need to realize we got worse. We need to look at that, and now's the time in the next election to, of course, local, but why in the next presidential. In the meantime, be working locally and governments and governors, mayors. So we need to start infiltrating.
Yeah, I think we lost you a little bit at the end there, but I think I definitely got the message. We need to have that large voice, and we need to also work at the local levels and really kind of build this grassroots movement up and get the support behind us. We have 4 years to do so. We're going to see 4 years of complacency, and this is a good time to do it. So, I'm going to say have a good night, and I hope you're doing well, and let me know if there's any other time you want to jump on and talk with us as well. I'd love to talk to you more about some stuff in the future that you're looking to do. And hopefully you enjoyed this talk as much as I did, and I hope you have a great night, Adam. I couldn't quite hear you, but I think you were signing off.
I just said something about liberty.
Okay. All right, man. Well, you have a good night. I will talk to you soon. Thanks again. So that was Adam Carbone. I am sorry for some of the technical difficulties. I think we had some mixed connections there, but I think most of us got the message from Adam at the end there, which was really just trying to unify around some large voices in the party. I think we've got some great folks that are coming up, and we're seeing folks like Ricky Dale Harrington in Arkansas, who made a big splash down there. There's a bunch of folks. Spike Cohen, I really do resonate with. Vermin Supreme, of course. Vermin Supreme is such a big voice already, and he could really make that massive impact and really grow this grassroots movement. I think we need to do a little bit of that and a little bit of the local election work, and I think we can do that. As we've said in the show a bunch of times, with the Green parties, the progressives, the other folks in other third parties, and in folks that feel alienated by their own Democrat or Republican party, and really head somewhere in the future that's going to go away from this endless cycle of Democrat Republican that are doing the same thing, of these endless wars, the drug war, perpetuating mass incarceration and all these things that we obviously don't want to see in our society. So I hope everyone enjoyed this edition of the Post Political Podcast. I appreciate all you for tuning in, and let us know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't. We're still growing and changing, and I'd love to make this show great for everyone. So let us know what you think, and I hope you all have a great night and enjoyed the show. Thanks.